Hello, my name is Zoe Cuspa, and I'm going to be discussing the WannaCry ransomware attacks. First, I want to provide a brief overview of what ransomware is. Basically, it's a form of malicious software, malware, that infects your computer and denies you access to your data. Ransomware can come in many shapes and forms, but the most common is in phishing spam mail when a user opens an attachment and the malware escapes. The hacker may do many things once they've infected your computer, but usually they encrypt your data and demand payment from you in order to decrypt it. Transitioning into WannaCry itself, I wanted to give a bit of background of what happened before the attacks hit. In February of 2017, Variant 1 was released. A single organization was compromised and over 100 computers were impacted. In March, Microsoft released a patch to improve server message block procedures, but only on Windows 10 machines. In April, Variant 2 was detected, and that one impacted at least 5 organizations. These two variants made possible connections to Lazarus Group, which is a known group to attack organizations maliciously, but it's still not confirmed if this is who is behind WannaCry. Also in April, External Blue was stolen from the NSA by a hacking group called the Shadowbreakers. External Blue was a code the NSA had secretly created to experiment and exploit Windows vulnerability. This breach would clearly cause problems in this case, but would cause even more problems for the NSA in the future, since hacking tools were also stolen in this breach as well. On May 12, 2017, the newest form of WannaCry spread across over 200,000 Windows computers all over the world. Instead of using phishing spam mail, the computers were infected by a ransomware worm that entered through vulnerable SMB ports and backdoors. Countries such as Russia, India, and Ukraine were hit the hardest, and many hospitals in England and Scotland were hugely disrupted. Payment was demanded in Bitcoin to decrypt a victim's data, and the price tag would double if the victim didn't act in a certain amount of time. And even then, data was not guaranteed back to the victim had they paid the ransom. So, who would be to blame for these attacks? Other than the hackers, the three groups that were most questioned for the attack were the NSA, Microsoft, and Microsoft users themselves. The NSA discovered the SMB vulnerability before the WannaCry attacks, and rather than reporting it to Microsoft, they developed code to exploit it, like I said, called External Blue. Obviously, this got stolen, and this was actually used to help WannaCry attackers in their attacks. Microsoft only issued SMB patches to Windows 10 users, however, there are still a plethora of users still running older versions of Windows, such as Windows 7. So the question is, why wouldn't Microsoft issue patches to them as well? The last group considered to be at fault would be Microsoft users. Personally, I don't see that, but there are arguments out there that they could have upgraded to Windows 10 or could have installed the patch right away and avoided WannaCry had they been a Windows 10 user. The two groups that are under the most fire for behaving unethically are the NSA and Microsoft. The NSA could even be the most at fault. By exploiting vulnerabilities and creating External Blue, they, a government agency, put the agency ahead of the public, and only when their code was stolen was Microsoft notified of the vulnerability and left to play catch-up. Microsoft isn't off the hook, though. They prioritized users who had the newest Windows version with a patch, knowing full well that older versions were still running and supported, but no patch was available to them. Throughout this class, we've looked at 3 different ethical viewpoints and how to apply them. Clearly, all viewpoints would see WannaCry as unethical. However, they all have different reasons as to why. Virtue ethics focuses on the user's decision and how it would embed them as a person. Under this viewpoint, the WannaCry attack is unethical because doing it did not improve one's character, and it actually showed the poor decision-making of the individual. Deontology focuses on how the decision will affect others, and asks the question, if their action became a law, would it be legal to do? Under this viewpoint, WannaCry is unethical because it is illegal, and it affects others negatively. You could also apply the notion of reversibility and ask yourself if you'd want WannaCry to happen to you. Utilitarianism is concerned with the end point rather than the initial decision, and if the end will produce positive utility and the fewest negative consequences. Under this viewpoint, WannaCry was wrong, because it did the opposite of this, and it was also immoral. In the US, we have the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, which is mostly focuses on the hacker and their wrongdoings. However, there is no real, concrete national or federal data breach law or data breach notification law in place. There have been proposals, but nothing solid has come out of them. On a state level, however, all 50 states have enacted legislation regarding data and data breaches, but there is no concrete universal federal law enacted currently. When it comes to legal implications of WannaCry, it is somewhat tricky. As for the NSA, lawsuits against them have frequently been dismissed. The NSA can also claim it is safe from liability due to the doctrine of sovereign immunity, which states that the government entities and organizations cannot be sued for carrying out official duties. Users cannot really sue or be compensated from Microsoft due to the licensing agreement they agreed to when they bought the software, which states that the company is not liable for any security breaches. Due to my research, I found no valid or successful lawsuits that came out of WannaCry. In conclusion, WannaCry was an unnecessary attack on Microsoft users. It could have been prevented by both the NSA and Microsoft in the form of more patches being released, or the disclosure of information to Microsoft from the NSA. Due to this, both entities behaved unethically. No one was able to take legal action due to licensing or government immunity, which should be fixed. Someone or some organization, other than the hackers, needs to be held accountable since something went wrong in their organization to allow things like this to happen. I hope my presentation taught you a bit about WannaCry, and thank you for listening.